And welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. My very special guest is Joe Scarborough, host of Morning Joe on MSNBC, and, of course, the author of a brand new book, sure to be a bestseller like his previous one, The Right Path, From Ike to Reagan, How Republicans Once Mastered Politics and Can Again. Joe, really appreciate you doing this. Let me pick up where we left off. Don't you think, and we were talking about the strategy of the shutdown and who's to blame, don't you think it's the media that framed it in the wrong way? Don't you think the media, you said you laughed at my argument because it reminded you what you were shouting at the walls back in the 90s with Clinton, but don't you think a fair media would have looked at both ways and said, well, the president, he didn't budge. Right. He said no talks.
Steve, though, we're talking about this president with low approval ratings. We're talking about 2014. You played a clip of me saying 2014 is going to be like 2010. I mean, people in Washington, D.C. have such amnesia because everything that's happening now has happened before. Everything that happened with the government shutdown happened before, and we have to understand that. I remember going on Rush's show after the last government shutdown, and he had me on for like 30 minutes. It was like a really big deal for me as a first-term congressman. And he asked me what I learned from the government shutdown, and I said, you know what I learned? I learned that we've got to fight smarter. We've got to understand that we're running up a hill, and we're running up a hill because we're not only running against Democrats and the Washington establishment, we're running against a news media that supports bigger government when we support smaller government, that's going to frame any cut as something mean-spirited and hateful. And I said the next time, I said this in 96 to Rush, the next time we fight this battle, we just have to be smarter strategically, and we've got to understand the battlefield that we're fighting on, and we Republicans forget that too often.
Well, you do admit that the media is biased towards Republicans, and it's not only. And I've
been saying it for 20 years.
All right, I've often said it doesn't matter who we run the next time. If they don't fight back, if they don't act a little like Newt Gingrich and calling out dumb questions and laughing at the dumb questions and fighting back against the media, it doesn't matter.
Okay, but we can't be angry about it, okay? We've lost 5 out of the last 6 presidential elections. We have got to do what Ronald Reagan always did.
Wait a minute, we lost 5 out of the last 6. Wait.
We lost the popular vote in 5 out of the last 6 elections.
And the Democrats didn't win the majority until Obama. I mean, from Jimmy Carter through Obama. They never won more than 50% even when Clinton won.
Well, okay, we can deconstruct this all we want. The fact of the matter is Hillary Clinton's running in 2016. If Hillary Clinton wins in 16 and 20, then they're going to control the Supreme Court for the next generation. I'm just talking about a way to connect again with the voters that we've been losing. I'm not talking about changing ideologically. Like I was about to say, what we've got to do when faced with the preposterousness of all of the biases against us, we've got to laugh. We've got to point it out with a smile. There was somebody that said after Chris Christie won, if Chris Christie wants to prove he's a conservative, he needs to go out today and call President Obama a liar.
All right.
To which I said, Ronald Reagan never called Jimmy Carter a liar. The only thing he ever said was when Carter said he liked taking cold showers in the morning was, a man who will lie about liking a cold shower will lie about anything.
All right, we're talking to Joe Scarborough on the Steve Malzberg Show. Brent Bozell, the president and founder of the Media Research Center, wrote a scathing column about you today. Bozell said Joe Scarborough doesn't care about Republican victory. He talked about you on the tour with Barbara Walters and The View and CBS This Morning and Charlie Rose lecturing Republicans, speaking about moderation. Do you agree with that? Don't you alienate the base? Isn't the base going to stay home, Joe? If you bend over and try to please the so-called moderates or independents, what about the base?
Well, Steve, I mean, aren't you listening to me? I've been saying it for 20 years. I wrote it through this book. Republicans win when they pick nominees who are conservative, not moderates. Brent Bozell was very angry at me because I said critical things about Mitt Romney. He was and he wrote about that. He picked all the times that I criticized Mitt Romney's inept campaign. It was an inept campaign. And Romney was a guy who was pro-choice one year, pro-life the next year, pro-choice the next year, pro-immigrant. I mean, the guy was a flip-flopper. And so Bozell was very angry when I pointed these things out.
So he's taking this out on you think? Or he's
just like he defended John McCain. He was very angry when I was critical of John McCain. And this all started when I started criticizing George. And you'll remember, I criticized George W. Bush in 2004 for his big spending republicanism. And let's face it, there are a lot of people in Washington, D.C., that love establishment Republicans, that make a lot of money churning up controversy, and basically
one of them?
Yeah, you go through and you look at all of his criticisms of me. He never criticizes me on ideology. It's always because I'm attacking an establishment Republican in D.C. Listen, he can't say that. He can't say that I ever say anything about Chris Christie or John Kasich or Scott Walker because I praise those guys because
Joe,
they're doing the right thing. They are fighting for small government principles in a way that's winning in blue states. That's what we got to do if we're going to take back the White House, the Senate, and the country.
2 minutes left, less than 2 minutes. I want to ask you a question. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Martin Bashir said the most horrific thing I've ever heard anyone on the air say ever.
Yeah.
That Sarah Palin someone should defecate and urinate in her mouth. He apologized, but as far as I know, nothing happened. There's been no statement from MSNBC. He wasn't suspended. He wasn't fired. Nothing. How is that possible?
Well, I will just say this. There are people, as you know, at Fox News that don't like other people at Fox News. And, Steve, you know that.
No, all right, fair enough.
Let me finish what I'm going to say. But in this, I will tell you this. Every time something horrific is said like that, I go in and I talk to Phil Griffin, who I'm good friends with, and I say, Phil, this is unacceptable. Either they apologize for it or I'm going to take it up myself. And I can tell you that didn't happen in this case because I was in the middle of a book tour, and I didn't really even hear about it until after Bashir's apology. But I agree with Martin Bashir's apology. It was a deplorable thing to say, and he has every reason to be ashamed for saying it.